can't get off a shot as the horn sounds. Mesquite with a 7-2 win, and the Mesquite Outlaws qualify for the postseason.
What a great effort by the Outlaws tonight. From the very start of the match to the very end, played with discipline on both ends.
This is MASL Monday. What's going on, everybody? I'm Alex Bachivansky, bringing you all the best from the Major Arena Soccer League. Welcome to all those listening on Sirius XM FC, channel 157, and watching on Twitch and MASL TV on YouTube. I am fortunate and so happy to be joined by a true legend today from the Dallas Sidekicks broadcasting crew. Eddie Puskarich. I got it right?
Yeah, you got it right, except for the legend part.
The legend part. Come on, brother. Outdoor, indoor, and you and Matt Thornton do such a great job for the Dallas Sidekicks. Eddie, you are coming on the show at the right time. It's your second time this year, but this was the perfect time because you had a front row seat to two of the most important games from the past week. And let's break it down for everybody. Of course, it was the last week of regular season play. And there was the Western Division Conference was as clear as mud. There were so many scenarios that could have played out. There were only two teams that were confirmed in number 1, San Diego, number 2, Chihuahua. And Dallas, the Sidekicks, we will talk about the rough season you guys had later on in the show. Yeah. But you guys played a pivotal role in this weekend because you had a chance to play spoiler with the Monterey Flash in town, who started the week in 6th spot on the outside of the playoff picture looking in. They needed to win both their games against you guys. So let's talk about what went down here in the contest, because Monterey pulled it off. They ended up winning both games. They won 5-3 in the first one. Kudos to you guys for a great performance in that one. The last contest, man, was a rough one, 10-2, that the Flash pulled it out. Tell us about the games. Talk to us about Monterey pulling it out and what you saw from the Flash, who really came through when the chips were down.
They did, and it actually came on the heels of the Sidekicks getting their first win against another playoff team, Tacoma, which also was a playoff atmosphere. And so on the heels of that, Dallas had a great week of practice. They were rolling and flying. It was a really good game. It was 5-3. It was tight to the end. In Monterey, they obviously, it was a playoff atmosphere, which it's hard to explain to fans what players feel when you get into a playoff atmosphere, because there's so much stress on every shift, every shot, every tackle, every call. And so it just amplifies everything. And hats off to Monterey. They have a very well-balanced attack, and they showed, I mean, their top scorers have 25, 24, 23, 21, and 18 points. Yeah. So they're very, very well-balanced, and they played really well. It was a good game.
Were you a little bit surprised? I mean, let's be honest. Dallas had the chance in that first game, 5-3. Did you think your boys, you talked about the training, the lead up to it, they relish the role of spoiler, obviously, especially after a disappointing season the way that this one was for the Sidekicks. Did you think they might pull off one of the two games?
I did. I thought they'd win the first game at home. It's awful hard to go to Monterey, as you know. I mean, Monterey and Chihuahua are two very, very difficult places to go play. So I had really anticipated, along with my broadcast partner Matt Thornton, that we'd win 2 in a row. And it was a true battle, and it was impressive for me because I have been harping all year about Dallas's lack of defensive shape. They've given away 8 goals in 16 of 20 games, now 17 of 21 games. And so to have a 5-3 scoreline, the longer the game went on, the closer it was, Dallas had the opportunity, and they just couldn't pull it out.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about Big D a little bit more towards the end of the show. And the season that you guys had. We have to get through these huge games that happened. We're going to go team by team here. The Tacoma Stars.
Yeah.
Who knew what was going to happen at the beginning, but they got the job done. They got half the job done themselves and then had to wait on help to see what was going to happen. The big game for them was beat Empire. They played Empire on Thursday. They win 4-3 because they knew they were going to go to San Diego, and they knew that was going to be not impossible, but very, very, very difficult, right? So they lost in San Diego. Great performance. They lost in San Diego 5-4. But the Empire game for them was the biggie that they knew that they had to come out on top, and they pulled it off 4-3, Eddie.
Well, I got to give a lot of love to the coaching staff in this one. Adam Becker, they had a middle part of the season where they just caught fire, and they just were on a roll. And when you have a guy like Nick Pereira, who I think is an MVP candidate, I mean, you're in every game. Not only does he score goals, he gives assists. I mean, he's got this guy. He's first in the league in points with 70. He got 70 points. He's 37 assists, also first in the league, and he's third in goals with 33. So he's just a player to be reckoned with. And I'm telling you, Tacoma believes in themselves right now. You can see in their play. They lost obviously to Dallas, and they just tuck in their bootstraps, if you will, and they got themselves in the playoffs, which is all you want to be. And right now, it's not the best team that wins it. It's the hottest team. Be careful with Tacoma.
Right. And, of course, just to update those who are watching or listening that don't know what's going on, number 4 and number 5. The key spot to get into, you at least wanted to get into number 5 because that gets you into a playoff game, a single one shot for all the glory, single game playoff against the 4th seed. And that's what happened, obviously, in the East and the West. And we'll talk about both the matchups a little bit later on. But Tacoma qualifies. Mesquite. Now, Mesquite hangs on by the skin of its teeth. Use your whatever expression you prefer, Eddie P. But, oh, man, Mesquite over the last 10 games have just been – it's been brutal to watch. But, again, when the chips were down, they managed to get it done. Now, they lost to Chihuahua 10-9 on Thursday. Okay, sort of what we talk about with Tacoma as well, going to San Diego and probably thinking there's a good chance you're going to come out with an L. Well, Mesquite, the way they've been playing, I don't think it would have been an upset to take down Chihuahua. The game that they had to win, same as Tacoma, was against Empire. And they came through in spades. And I mean, we're going to talk about Empire in a moment here, but my God, it was a 7-2 spanking too.
It was.
7-2 Mesquite. I mean, a Mesquite team that was on its back, that have not been great lately. Oh man, I don't know what happened to Empire, but you know, they spanked them 7-2. And, you know, the Outlaws, who were a great story to begin the season, Eddie, they really, really were. They were playing so competitive, gave San Diego a run for their money in a couple of games, coming back to the league after being out since 2019-20. But they get it done. They come through. Tell us about Mesquite and what they were able to accomplish.
So I should also point out that game was pushed back to a 9 p.m. kickoff because they had players that were still stuck in Chihuahua, had some flight issues and stuff like that. We had some bad weather in this part of the country for a while now. So they had a lot of adversity, but two things. Every fine meal, as you know, Alex, is a good recipe, a mix of a bunch of different things. Well, you've got experience with a coaching staff like Tattoo and Nick Stavro. They've been in almost every situation around. And they got two of the finest young players in the league. You've got Morales and you've got Sebastian Mendez. And when those guys get hot, you can combine that with an experienced coaching staff. They're a team. It's going to be a great series, buddy. I mean, they went 10-9 against Chihuahua, who I think is a really strong team. They come home. They really take care of the Empire 7-2, which is a scoreline that a lot of us didn't expect to see. So now you've got Mesquite versus Tacoma. I wish it was a best of 3. It's a one-off game, buddy. And it's also this Wednesday.
It is. And we're going to talk about the series. Like it's going to be, pardon me, it's a one-off, but it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
You know Mesquite very well, obviously, from being in the Dallas area, the Dallas Derby with the Sidekicks. They're your biggest rivals. Just give us your perspective on Mesquite, on what you think sort of happened from maybe the midseason on that caused them to go in that lull, and have they turned a corner now as they enter the playoffs?
Well, they had a couple of injuries. They had a really good start this season, as you know. They were top of the table for a while. Had some really close games, as you mentioned, with San Diego. And injuries play a big part. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you've got some guys, some key guys like Pablo and Morales that missed some game time. You had some guys that were out with the futsal national team as well too. So Ortiz and Mendez, but I think after Mesquite, they really came together at the end, and I think that goes again to the coaching chemistry, the coaching experience that Tattoo brings.
A legend of the game, Tattoo.
And he's got Cortez in goal. So he's hot. He's hot, buddy.
One of the tops in the league, no question about it. So we've got to do a post-mortem of Empire here, Eddie. Oh. This is the second season in a row. And listen, I love the boys in purple, man. I love the team, love the broadcasters. Philly and the doctor do a great job. And man, it was looking like such a great season. Terrible start. And then, man, they got going. And as recently, honestly, as 2.5 weeks ago, we were saying they are a legitimate threat to win the entire thing this season. And then it was direct parallel to last season. Last season, to finish things off, they lost 8 straight games to fall out of the postseason picture. This season, 6 straight down the stretch to miss the playoffs. Just, man, Eddie, what the heck happened?
I wish I had an answer, buddy, but you're right, though. They lost the last 8. They broke that losing streak against the Sidekicks at home. They've got Frank Taillou. He's got 38 goals. He leads the league. He's an absolute beast of a player. They've got some really good players as well, too, and they have a little drop-off at the end again. There has to be something internally. I don't know if the coaching staff and the players aren't on the same page, if the players have some internal strife. I'm not quite sure, but they've got too much talent. Both in the front office and on the field to be missing the playoffs. I mean, like you said, they're the one that snapped the Soccer's winning streak. They've got some great performances. And
30 game winning streak for San Diego. The Strykers snapped that. Frank Taillou, Justin Stinson, Uzi Taillou, Mohamed Ndiaye, Chris Toth in goal. I mean, it was just, they were cruising, looking so good. So, well, we're going to have Philly on at some point to talk about it and get his perspective. But
I'd love to hear that. Yeah, absolutely. Because that is a mystery that I'll be honest with you, I have no answer for. I really don't.
The West looks so dominant. Even 1 through 4 for a while.
Yeah.
And then it's interesting seeing there ended up being that 1-2 with San Diego and Chihuahua. And then the 3, 4, 5 all kind of backed into the postseason. None of them were in any way, shape, or form dominant. So it finished off very interesting.
So it's amazing too. So if the Strikers were in, who would be out? I mean, because they've all have earned the right to be there. So it's just a case of, I think the West, they beat each other up. But I also think that also bodes well for playoffs because they're used to playing bigger games, I think, and they're used to the tighter games and the games that have so much more emphasis on the results.
We're going to take a look at the standings here, how they finished up. And for those of you listening on Sirius XM, I will read out the West just so you can figure out what we're talking about here. Number 1 was San Diego, running away with it by 13 points, and they are the Supporter Shield winner for the second season in a row. Chihuahua finished up second, Monterey in third, Tacoma in 4th spot, Mesquite in 5th. Now, Mesquite and Tacoma, 37 points, along with Empire, but Empire on the outside looking in with the tiebreaker formula that they had. So it is going to be some fascinating matchups. We've got to quickly go over the East before we get to the matchups, though, Eddie. So it wasn't nearly as interesting as the West in the final week because we knew who was going to be in the postseason. They were all sort of jockeying for home field advantage.
Right.
So Milwaukee ended up holding on to that number 1 seed. But the interesting game was that I think we were hyping this up more earlier in the season if we thought Milwaukee was going to be number 1, because number 1 played number 1. Milwaukee went to San Diego and played the Sockers. 11-5. San Diego takes it. Just wanted to get your thoughts on that. And by the way, both teams played their big guns in that game. There was a lot of question about whether they'd be sitting a lot of guys for the postseason. Milwaukee also had a game against Harrisburg. Were they going to sit some guys to rest them for the Harrisburg game? Most of the big guns played in this game. Your thoughts, though, on that 11-5 game? Is San Diego just that much better from your perspective, Eddie?
Well, I think the short answer is yes. I mean, San Diego, they're the best team in the MASL, two-time champions. They had a great season this year against Bowl 2. And I think Milwaukee is a force to be reckoned with. And it may have been a bit of preview of what we might see in the finals between the East and the West Division. And also, hopefully, it's a coaching lesson for Giuliano with the Wave to figure out how he can try and take on the San Diego Strykers. You know, Milwaukee has a wild card, I think, in their goalkeeper, Willie B. He had a game here in Dallas where, I tell you what, if I was his agent, I would take that video and chop it everywhere I could. If he is on, he will allow any game to be close. So it was fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. So Milwaukee will take on the winner of the 4 versus 5 Utica and Kansas City. Just real quick, Baltimore fell to Utica 4-3, but the key for them is they've held on to that home floor advantage, at least for their series against Florida, which we will get to momentarily. Let's take a look at the final Eastern standings, Eddie. And Milwaukee does finish first in the East, so they will have home field advantage. But Baltimore finishes second. They will have home field for their matchup against Florida. Best of 3, by the way. All these series. Florida number 3 with 41 points, tied with Baltimore, but Baltimore gets the tiebreaker. Utica number 4, 36 points. Kansas City number 5 gets the play-in game, 35 points. So they will play the winner-take-all single game matchup against Utica, which we will get to now as we take a look at our Eastern playoff preview first. Milwaukee waiting in the wings to play 4 or 5, whoever wins that game. Utica and Kansas City, the one game for all the marbles on the blue turf in Utica, which is going to be awesome. It is going to be jammed with some of the best fans in the MASL. I say that a lot. I absolutely love the atmosphere in Utica. Adirondack Bank Center, pardon me. Monday, April 10th, 7:05 Eastern time. These teams did not play each other this season, Eddie, which is an interesting little scheduling quirk.
That's crazy. And when we talked about that earlier, I was like, they're in the same division. This is the first time that they will meet. And I mean, similar to Mesquite and Tacoma, it's going to be a barn burner. I can't wait to see this game.
Okay, let's roll through this. Utica 7-3 over the last 10 games. So they are one of the hottest teams entering the playoffs, actually. The hottest team in the East, actually. 7-3 over the last 10 games. Gordy Gerson has to be on it. He is the straw that stirs the drink. Top 5 scorer in the league. 41 points on the season, Eddie. Big drop after him in terms of point scores. But 5 guys over 20 points this season. The main thing for them is they are going to have to crack down defensively. 153 goals scored, the most of any playoff team.
Yeah, they have a minus 21 goal differential, which is shocking. But I got to point one thing out to you. I'm going to go back to the coach here again as well, too. Coach Everton, since he's left St. Louis, the ambush has yet to make the playoffs. He goes to Utica. Now it gets them into the playoffs for the very first time. So I expect this to be one heck of a game. In Kansas City, Leo Gibson. I mean, again, experience. You got Sosa. I mean, this is going to be I wish this was also a best of 3 game. Yeah. But, hey, it is what it is, you know.
4-6 entering the playoffs, Kansas City. Zach Regetz, of course, who was acquired in the last third of the season, leading the team with 41 points. They got guys who can definitely score, though. Sosa, 34 points. Souza, 33 points. Leo the Legend, 31 points. It is going to be a great game. Your pick to win this one?
I'm going to go pick Kansas City. I'm going with experience here. I'm sorry to my friends in Utica and Coach Everton, but don't kill the messenger. I got to make a pick, but I'm going to pick a tight game, by the way.
The Road Warriors. Okay. Just a reminder, everyone, you are listening to MASL Monday on Sirius XMFC channel 157 and watching on MASL TV on YouTube and on Twitch. And you can watch all of your MASL playoff games on Twitch live and the archive as well. Alex Bashavansky here, being joined today by Dallas Sidekicks broadcaster Eddie Puskarich. Eddie P, let's move on to number 2, number 3, Baltimore taking on Florida. Florida won the season series 2-1. And interesting to note, they handed Baltimore just one of their 2 losses on their home floor this season. First game of that series, by the way, Friday, April 7th at 7:05 Eastern time in Lakeland before they switch back to Baltimore for the last possibly 2 games there. Baltimore, 6 of last 10 they've won. Lucas Roque, top 5 scorer in the league, obviously. Your thoughts on the Blast?
So you mentioned it earlier. They only had 1 loss at home. Their home arena is the smallest arena in the MASL, and I think gives them a big advantage. I mean, they're used to it. They know how to use the surroundings and stuff like that. I think you've got Roque as an obvious threat there to score at any time. I just like Baltimore again, buddy. I think it's going to go 3 games, but I think I'm going to pick Baltimore in this one.
Baltimore. Okay, so, and we have to mention as well, one of the best goalkeeping duos in the league.
By far.
In William Van Zela and the Hoff, Mike Zierhofer, coming off a goalie of the week, defensive player of the week nod last week. Tropics, 5-5 in last 10.
Home cooking means so much. You got that. The first game is in Florida, obviously, okay? So that could go either way. I'm giving that game to Florida. You come back, I think Baltimore wins the first game, and then they have the mini game. So everybody should know that once we're tied, if the 2 games are tied at 1 game apiece, they play a 15-minute mini game.
Yes.
And it's going to be fun. I think it goes to a mini game.
It is fun, but you think overall Baltimore takes
I'm taking Baltimore, buddy.
Okay. Moving to the West now, number 4 against number 5, Tacoma against number 5 Mesquite in the playoff game. For the Raids, boy, a thankless job to then face San Diego. How much fun is that going to be? But first, you got to get there. You got to get to the dance first. So Wednesday, April 5th, 7:35 Pacific time at the Accesso Showwear Center in Tacoma for that game. The Stars 5-5 over the last 10 as they enter the playoffs. Nick Pereira, definitely a front runner for MVP this season, leading the way. Your thoughts on Tacoma?
I think they have too much right now. I think they're really, even though they're 5-5, I think when it comes down to the playoff time, they will be in sync together. I think Mesquite is a little bit on a roller coaster. We're not quite sure who's going to show up. So, unfortunately, I'm sorry for my Mesquite friends down here in Dallas. I'm going to go with Tacoma in this one, buddy. Also expect the barn burner as well.
You're taking Tacoma, but you do feel that Mesquite is looking a lot better now.
Absolutely. I think Nick Pereira is just too much. I think he's going to the combination of his goals and assists. I mean, he spreads the wealth so well. And I think
and he's on that home floor that he knows so well, and he's just so dominant. Yeah, okay.
I'm impressed with him every time I see him.
Right on. So you're taking Tacoma there.
Yes, sir.
This series is going to be spicy. This is incredible. The Battle of Mexico, number 2 Chihuahua facing number 3 Monterey. Game 1 Friday, April 7th in Monterey. Chihuahua won the season series 4-2, but I mean, wipe the slate clean. Monterey is going to be so up for this. Chihuahua having won 6 of their last 10 entering the postseason, plus 25 goal differential. Just a lot of weapons on this team. Your thoughts on the Savage?
So the Savage, which by the way, I should point this out to you as well too. I had the privilege to call the M2 semifinals this past weekend, and in the finals, and Chihuahua 2 won the M2, which was kudos to them. And I think they are in the right path to be very successful. I saw them the second game of the season against the Sidekicks. I made a prediction then that they'd be a team to be reckoned with this year. They have a full package team. They're got good goalkeeping. They're good on their special teams. They have a plus 55 goal differential. They average 7.5 goals a game. They're just a big team to play right now.
They are going to be a lot. And a real quick question, is Corner Sports Arena the most intimidating atmosphere to play at in the league?
By far. I mean, you want to talk about some home cooking. This is going to be a civil war. It's a civil war in Mexico. You know, it's fun to see, 2 versus 3, both the Mexican teams. And everybody get your popcorn for this one. It's going to be a great entertainment.
we've missed having those two Mexican teams in the league over the last few seasons, so it's great to have them back. The Flash this season, Monterrey, having won 6 of their last 10 entering the postseason. They needed to win this weekend. They got the job done. Balanced scoring as well on this squad. Your thoughts on Monterrey, and then your pick to win this one.
Well, as we talked about earlier, Monterrey, it's got 5 guys that even the scoring out. You get 25, 24, 23, 21, and 18. I mean, they just have some really, really good players, and they're on a roll. They did what they had to do. They won. They're also an organized team. Unfortunately, I think a little bit too little too late. I'm going with Chihuahua, buddy, on this one.
Okay. It's going to be a great series.
It is going to be a great series. I'm picking this game in 2 games. No mini game. Chihuahua will win these 2 games.
Okay. We want to try to talk about the sidekicks, so let's finish it off real quick. The playoff preview. We're probably going to have you on again in the postseason regardless, but as we enter the playoffs, let's get your predictions. Your pick to win the West?
I picked to win the West. San Diego Sockers, buddy. I'm going out on a limb. I know. They just got so much firepower. I mean, they are plus 61 goal differential.
Yeah.
You know, who do you shut down? I mean, they've got and they have great goalkeeping as well too with Pardo, and they're just such a complete unit. I think they'll be hard to beat, buddy.
And your pick to take the East?
I'm going to go with Milwaukee. And I hope Milwaukee has learned a little bit in their last game at San Diego, but I'm going with the Wave and Giuliano and he and Bennett and Willie B to catch fire. And I'm hoping we're going to have a 1-versus-1 matchup in the final.
Okay. And your pick to win it all?
I apologize to my Milwaukee Wave fans, but for the 3rd year in a row, I'm going with the San Diego Sockers.
Okay. I mean, they are the odds-on favorite. No question.
They are.
Okay, so that's the playoffs. I've got to ask you real quick, the elephant in the room then. Obviously, it was a difficult season for the sidekicks, to put it kindly. Let's give us some positives. And we got about a minute and a half here. But first of all, I want to say you got the 1 win, though, against Tacoma. I've never heard 2 broadcasters happier in my life for a regular season win. You guys were hilarious. Great calls in that game. But just give us your thoughts on this season and some positives. As I said, we got about a minute and a half. But
I know. Well, first of all, let me tell you, it's good for the league that the sidekicks didn't go winless. I think. I mean, it's indoor. They had a couple of shootout losses and overtime losses, and they were competitive. They had some troubles, obviously defensively and stuff like that, and they lost some players between seasons and. But they fought back, and that win, I'll talk to Coach Riccardino after the game, it was like they had won the championship. They were celebrating in the locker room. It was such good vibes and such a good, you just felt good for the team. And Matt Thornton and I were like 2 little kids at Christmas morning celebrating the win, which was fantastic. And it was a good wave of enthusiasm, and I think that goes into next year because the guys were playing for their jobs basically.
Yeah,
I mean, when you're out of the playoffs and you've got nothing to play for, you play for pride, you play for contract with your team, and also other teams look at you. A lot of young players this year, a lot of newcomers that came into the mix, and I think they've got some work to do. I got to give my shout out to the organization. Even with the bad losses and results, we had 2,000 and 3,000 fans every game, Alex. It was phenomenal.
Good crowds. They have a great time. A lot of kids out there. Great atmosphere on sidekicks games.
And the players, after every game, they signed autographs on the field. And the organization does a really, really good job. So my hat's off to them. They dealt with a difficult situation. The win was great, though. We're gonna still. That elephant is no longer in the room, so we're having some fun with that, buddy.
Okay, there's always next year, my friend. Listen, we've got to fly here, but great job as usual, buddy. Love having you on. Give my best to Mr. Thornton back there in Big D, and we're gonna do this again in the postseason anyway. But thank you so much, Eddie P, for coming on and giving us your expertise today.
Alex, always a pleasure, buddy. Your show is one of the best around. We all love what we do with the MASL. I look forward to watching you more, and let me know whenever I can help out anytime. I'd love to help out, pal.
Thanks, buddy. The check's in the mail. Appreciate the nice comment. And thanks to everyone for listening on Sirius XMFC and watching on MASL TV. I'm Alex Bastiavansky. I will talk to you again next Monday.